The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional.
Michelle, I think we can both agree that sex plays a really important and crucial part of any healthy relationship, couldn't we?
100%.
What if I were to say to you there's actually a wearable that can provide real-world, timely data about your sexual health?
Yeah, I mean, there's smart tech for everything these days, and it's something that didn't occur to me, but to be able to use that technology to talk about sexual health feels really important.
Well, on today's show, we're going to talk to a doctor who has absolutely revolutionized how to quantifiably measure sexual health in men. Me personally, I'm really excited to talk to the doctor. I actually have some really important questions I have to ask him about my penis.
Just don't whip it out, because that's not that kind of show. Don't ask him to diagnose you.
Darn it.
I mean, you know how there's the old saying, if there's a doctor at a party, everyone's going to show him their mole.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A dermatologist.
Yeah. Or just be like, oh, I have a pain in my neck, or,
When you're at a party, do people want to talk to you about their mental health?
No. In fact, a lot of times people are scared that I'm secretly diagnosing them with some mental disorder. So.
Because you are?
Mostly no. I can say with confidence. My brain is off the clock when I'm at parties, which is so frequent, as you know me.
Here's a question for you. Do you oftentimes in your practice, does sex come up quite a bit? And especially like sexual issues?
Oh, a ton. Especially not just even working with couples, which, that's one of the first things I assess for is, their sexual satisfaction and their satisfaction with the level of intimacy that they have. But even with individuals who across a broad range, people who are dating, people who've been married for 30 years, and they're just coming for maybe a separate issue. And yet that is one of the factors that is affecting their mental health. And so it comes up. People get really in their heads when it comes to sex.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sex and mental health are linked so powerfully that it's hard to talk about sex without bringing up that other factor.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Unrelated with Kel and Michelle.
I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for over 2 decades.
And I'm the show producer and co-host.
Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships,
why we do what we do,
and what causes people to unrelate.
Dr. Elliot Justin is the CEO and founder of Firmtech, the first sex tech company dedicated to improving men's erectile fitness. He is an expert in the rapidly evolving sex tech and wearables industry with a unique focus on sexual and cardiac health. Welcome, Dr. Elliot Justin. How are you?
I'm doing great. I live in Montana.
For listeners, we saw where Dr. Justin lives in his beautiful backyard. It was fantastic. So we're officially jealous, sir, of you.
Good. That was my intention.
But just the wide open space, to me, that's immediately calming. That does wonders for my mental health.
When I lived in New Jersey, it was horrible. It was, I feel in Montana, I feel like I'm in the right space spiritually in terms of scale.
Oh, I bet. Let's talk first about, Doctor, your background and how you got into this particular field of men's health.
It's an interesting story. By background, I've always been perhaps unusually interested in sex. I can't think of any other doctors whose mother took them to urologists twice when they were teenagers because she was worried that their masturbation habit would not get them into college. The first day of medical school, I kind of looked around and thought, these are not my people. So I went to the medical library. There was something then called the Index Medicus. It's all online now, but the Index Medicus then was hard volumes of every medical paper that was published over the last year and organized alphabetically by area. I went for the A volume, Aphrodisiac, and there wasn't exactly a line of medical students behind me clawing for that A volume. I was alone in there. Jumping ahead, I live in Montana, and I sometimes have this illusion that I'm a centaur. That I'm one with my horse. That could be a very dangerous illusion.
Why though?
Well, I was because there's a certain joy in riding fast, especially because the riding that I do is in the mountains on trails, and especially in circumstances like that, rather than riding in an arena. And a tree had fallen over a trail, and someone had cut the tree so you could walk underneath it, but you couldn't run a horse underneath it. And I was looking off to the right, then looked because it's a beautiful day, and I shattered that tree into pieces with my chest. But I also broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae, and that got me very interested in what's going on to rehabilitate sexual function in men and women who had a spinal cord injury or spinal cord disease. Fortunately, I did not. There were 6 papers in what we call the medical literature claiming that they're able to neuromodulate human sexuality. So think cardiac pacemaking, but for sexuality. And that would be extremely powerful in an aging population. Also extremely powerful given that the incidence of sexual dysfunction in men and women by age 50 is 50% in research. Mm-hmm. I think after COVID, we all understand that there's something goofy about the medical literature. It's kind of funny that we use that word because literature usually means fiction, not nonfiction. So these 6 studies also claim that they're able to place an electrode by the pudendal nerve and cavernous nerve where they emerge underneath the pubis bone. Mm-hmm. These are everyone's 2 favorite nerves that no one talks about because no one's heard of them. But the nerves that are essential for arousal and orgasm. I tried out initially on 2 rams, male sheep, and we got erection and ejaculation, but the erections were kind of weak. But we also got defecation and urination, so it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly. Now, maybe in West Hollywood or Sydney, Australia, or down in the Village in New York, there'd be a market for this, but not the general population. The usual course of action at that point would be, let's go down to Nigeria or Brazil and find 25, 35 men with ED, implant electrodes, see what happens. Mm-hmm. I decided to try it out on myself, and I had a friend who was a professor of urology who I went to his clinic, we implanted an electrode, and I felt nothing. And that was interesting because I don't think we actually know. I don't think we actually have opened up the black box of sexual responsiveness yet for men or for women. I think it's more complicated than we think. Ultimately, everything in the body should come down to electrophysiology. The fact that stimulating these 2 nerves produced no result in me, and I don't have ED. That's interesting. I don't think we know. I think what's in the textbooks is not accurate. But a urology professor about 4 years ago at the University of Utah heard about this experiment. Now, my background in emergency medicine doctor, but I've been doing medical technology consulting in that area for several years. He said he wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have because they're the indicator of men's cardiovascular health. And I said, well, Jim, he's my chief medical officer right now. Have you ever used a cock ring? And he said, no. And I said, well, if we embed sensors into a cock ring, I prefer to call it an erection ring, we embed sensors that we could not only capture nocturnal erections, but we can examine the erections that matter the most to men, which are the ones they have while trying to have sex. Mm-hmm. So that's the background story. But the problem is these cock rings that you buy in sex toy stores, these hard silicone rings that are made the same stupid way for 150 years. I mean, think about the variation in vibrator forms since the 1980s. There are hundreds of different vibrator forms, textures, styles, blah, blah, blah. For men, there's shit. There's these stupid rings, and they're made out of silicone. They pinch, they're uncomfortable. You can't wear them for 20, 30 minutes. So in order to count the number of nocturnal erections that, overnight, we had to reinvent the erection ring. And that was interesting because I was thinking about data. Well, we're going to get this data about nocturnal erections, how many you have, how long they last, how hard they are. And with that information, men will get a sense of their cardiovascular risk. Because, Kelly, how many nocturnal erections did you have last night?
I was thinking about this question actually before you started.
It's a trick question.
Because I was thinking that I don't even remember having any, but I must have had some. So
you must have had some, yeah. But you don't know because you were asleep and you don't have any way of monitoring them.
No, you're right. And
I don't think men have thought about that concept.
I don't have much awareness of that. I occasionally you wake up with one, right? That's it's not uncommon. So
okay, so you should be having 3.2 to 3.5 nocturnal erections per night. And that would be average for your age. Of course, you want to be above average. You want to have like 4, right, man? But you could actually right now have only 1 or 2 and have a cardiovascular problem and still be able to perform sexually. But if you use our device, you would then know that, gee, I'm below average and either I'm having a cardiovascular problem or I have a medication-related problem. By the way, Michelle, how many do you have last night?
No idea.
No one's studied nocturnal clitoral erections since Madison and Johnson.
Yeah.
We know that women have them. Our thesis is that it's probably the same number as men. We don't know, but it's probably the same number as men. And we are, as I told you earlier, we are developing a device for women that we hope to come out with next year that will also give women valuable information about their sexual health. So we have basically, our rings are soft, they're stretchable, they're not made out of silicone, they're made out of elastomer. They open and close with a hook. I have to thank my wife for both these things.
Is that the performance model right there you're showing us?
This is the tech ring.
Okay, it's a tech one. Okay, cool.
So there's a pressure sensor there, strain gauge there. Mm-hmm. Just happen to have one on my desk. You guys, you have one too, don't you? Show me yours, Kelly.
I got 3 or 4 of those. Yeah.
And it goes on differently. It doesn't slide down the shaft. It opens and closes with the hook. Oops, I lost my fingers there. Open and close with the hook.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's just like that. And then as the penis expands in size, it pulls on the strain gauge here in the hook and presses on the pressure sensor that's underneath there. And so that gives us two data points, and the computer then turns that into a 1 to 10, firmness scale. Mm-hmm. Plus, it also functions has dual purpose. It also functions as a cock ring. For sexual performance.
It is very scientific because even in my field, when we're talking about symptoms of any kind of, illness, it's, frequency, duration. You're also looking at firmness. So it's like I don't know if this is a term, but a whole penis approach to gathering the data.
For men and for women, I want to make it objective. It's possible. Mm-hmm. I recognize lovemaking has a profound subjective component. I mean, we all experience, if we're all experienced, and I'm talking about, being 14 to 15-year-old guy and everything turns you on. But say by the time you're in the 20s or 30s, you realize, gee, this is the best looking person I've been out with, but they don't turn me on the way that person did. And then and it's just that. So there's this sort of, if you will, this chemistry aspect to it that is really fascinating. But I want to help people with what's the objective side of it. Mm-hmm. So for men right now, there's something called the IEF. Michelle, are you familiar with the IEF, the International Erection? They're these subjective scoring systems that are used to assess male sexuality. Well, they're subjective. They're not objective. Right now, pills like Viagra and Cialis are being passed out like they're Pez. If you go to Hims or Get Row or any of these online sites, you're getting drugs.
Very easily. Yeah.
Same thing with testosterone as well too. I don't want to do that. I want to make it objective. I'll pick up myself. Elliot, you're 17 years old and you're having 3+ nocturnal erections. That's above average for your age. You don't actually need a PD5. You can take it, Cialis if you want, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It's highly unlikely to benefit you. Or, hey, Elliot, you're taking testosterone therapy. Before you do that, let's measure your nocturnals. For example, I'm having 2 nocturnals. Well, we want to jack up your dose of testosterone because we want you to have 3+ or more because that's normal for your age. Or it could be, hey, Elliot, you're having 4 nocturnal erections per night. Testosterone might help you with your muscle, but it's not going to help you with your dick. So to have a way of objectively measuring in a way that's personal. So we're delivering data to men and the healthcare providers. That's objective, actionable, and personal. Because one of the stupid mistakes we doctors make is we treat everyone as if they're one size fits all. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets the same pill.
Yeah, I think you're going to be targeted by the pharmaceutical industry. I worry for you.
Doctor, I've dabbled in those pills in the past, and mostly when I was dating, and I did get a lot of comfort from having that as an option, just in case I had any type of ED issues. But I don't need to take them anymore. But I just didn't like the side effects. I didn't like, the hot flashes and the.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys, even in their 20s and 30s, who are using that as either a crutch or, a safety blanket. But it's because they're terrified of the idea of ED.
Right. Failing. By the way, ED is the wrong word. Some of the phrases that are thrown at men that are all negative. Women, no, you're not frigid anymore. You're not hysteric, you're not orgasmic. You have a problem. Buy a vibrator. Take hormones or whatever. Get divorced. Find someone else. But for men, we have ED, porn addiction, toxic masculinity, the death grip. So let's talk about ED for a moment because I prefer to call it. That's why I'd say my goal is erectile fitness, really for men and for women as well too.
I like that reframe.
We're a fitness-oriented society. We want to maintain our fitness. All of us, men and women, are on the road from erectile fitness of the penis, the clitoris, to dysfunction. We all would like to know where am I on that road? Because I'd like to make a U-turn. I'd like to stop. I'd like to, get off this road. But we don't have a dashboard. The tech ring gives men and the healthcare providers a dashboard. It's an easy-to-use app in the Google and Apple stores. It'll tell you objectively what's going on with you. With data, you can then say, oh, well, here's where I am. I'm okay for my age. Or no, I've got a problem. What's causing that problem? Is it psychosocial issue? Is it medication? Is it heart disease? But we need data. And the data that's also personal, because a dose of testosterone that might work for me is not going to work for someone else. So that's what I want to do. I want people to be to be able to stop going down this road and maintain their fitness. So the doctors were thinking, our data, we've documented 86,000, 87,000 erections right now. This is the world's largest dick database, and research on this data is showing that what the doctors are treating as the number one cause of ED is not the number one cause. And now I'm going to tell you why I want to get rid of the word dysfunction. If the incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade after age 45, women too, by the way, even more precipitously in women, the doctors were thinking the number of nocturnal erections will come down. The firmest nocturnal erections will come down. The firmest of sex erections will come down. Well, that's true for the 10 to 12% of men who struggle to get an erection. These are men who have heart attacks, angina, significant hypertension, poorly controlled diabetes, other significant risk factors. That's a dead dick. You want to call it dysfunction? I'm fine with that. You can't struggle. You can't get erect. But the majority of men, 85% plus of men, get an erection, they lose it. What's going on? If you get an erection, you're getting blood in. So the doctors are thinking cardiac insufficiency, the pump is not pumping enough blood, combination with narrowing of the arteries, coming out of the heart and into the penis. And those are problems. But for the majority of men, they still get rock hard. Even if they're 65, 75 guys in their early 80s, they're getting blood in. What's happening? But the blood is not staying there. So why is the blood not staying there? And it's often a combination of factors. One is mental. My wife thinks I have a small dick, or I'm worried about paying the mortgage. The kids are crying next door. I got to get up really, really early for work the next day. These kind of factors. Or it could be alcohol, recreational drugs, medications that we doctors prescribe to people without thinking about their sexuality. Yep. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, sleeping medications, antihypertensives, many of them. Some combination of these factors, and they lead to a loss of confidence. And the loss of confidence produces a sympathetic nervous system response, and the erection fades away. Well, there's the erection. What's our goal? To keep blood in. Well, the PD5 medications, Viagra, Cialis, they put blood in, and they're nice to take, but they don't keep it there. The answers are ring. And if you had told me 4 years ago, Elliot, you're going to be speaking to Kelly and Michelle 4 years from now on a podcast about the benefit of erection rings, cock rings, I would have said, I don't need that. Why would I do that? And now what I understand is it's not as good as a vibrator, but if a man wants to rock harder, last longer, have more intense orgasm, be more confident, have their partner be more confident. That's why does my wife love the device so much? She knows I'm not going to lose my erection. That liberates her mindset as well, too, because she doesn't have to think. And women are quite sensitive about this. He's going down on me, but he's going to lose his erection, and I got to come quickly. And these things I hear about from my patients. You probably do it as well, too. Well, the pressure's off, because with an effective erection ring, a man who gets an erection is going to stay hard for 30 to 45 minutes with minimal stimulation, and that for most people in a committed relationship, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about, also, there's just so many emotions involved in what you talk about for the man and the woman. So in terms of how they're using the data to then have better conversations, what's your take?
Yeah, well, definitely. It can be uncomfortable, though. So, for example, we've had two men who get cardiac catheterizations who are blaming their partners for their poor performance, but actually the problem was with their heart. We've had, on the more risky side, we've had a couple of men who ended up getting divorced because they claimed they couldn't perform with their wives, and the wives, since they didn't password protect their data, the wives could say, well, "Wait a second, Tuesday afternoon, weren't you with?" So the data is really powerful. But to your point, Michelle, it does help people sort out, especially if they're open-minded. Is it a confidence issue? Is it, well, maybe I do need to drink less, or do I need to go back to my doctor and ask for different medications for my blood pressure?
I've really discovered through trial and error. With me, it's really mental, doctor. I tell you, if I get in my head, it's game over. I will say when I'm in the right headspace, it's absolutely zero problems.
Yeah. Well,
So
Kelly, I recommend you put a ring on it.
yeah.
The ring addresses three-ish things that men complain about women that they don't want to talk about with their partners. And women have their own issues with common complaints about men. How many times I give them a blowjob? God, 1,000 times. But the three things that we talk about the importance of communication. But the things that guys don't want to communicate, and one is, I'm bored. That position bores me. Well, that position might be the position that she finds to be most satisfying. That's her go-to position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure.
Well, without the ring, that leads to I'm going to lose my erection in that position, worry, if you will. With the ring on, the cock stays hard. Well, the man has a hard on, not worried about losing his hard on. Very different mindset than a guy who's worried about losing it. But so that's boredom. The other one, common complaint, is men complain that women in the middle of sex can start talking about something else. A fight they had with a kid, something happened at work, some brilliant. My wife was like, "Oh, I have a great idea for redesigning my bedroom." Or, now I know where to put that armoire. It's like, and she'd get right back to sex right away. Mm-hmm. I can't. For me, for me that would be a WTF moment. But with a ring on, I don't have that way. I don't care. I don't want to talk about that right now. I don't care. Go, go ahead. And the other thing that men don't want to talk about with their partners is with penetrative sex, at least, is that there are certain positions as they get older, they just don't get enough friction. Because women are aging as well, too. And the women have their own complaints about men as well too. But to have a ring that's going to keep a guy hard, that's a game changer in many relationships. And the data is also really, really valuable, because the data. And I spoke with a doctor yesterday who the data made him acknowledge that he actually couldn't handle alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what you're talking about, is the data actually moving you in the direction of making a healthier change for yourself. Mm-hmm. Can I say, though, going back to what you said about your wife and the vibrator, I appreciate that you don't consider the vibrator competition, because that can also get in the way of a healthy sexual relationship. Definitely. When men are either feel it's competition or insecurity about it.
Yeah,
I'm just envious.
Well, it's also your wife making the movements that she knows how she feels. So yeah, you get it. But some guys out there feel insecure, like you said, Kelly.
I'm trying to imagine a world, doctor, where I'm a single guy. Okay, I've been married for 12 years, with my wife for 17 years. But what if I'm single and I actually have this device and I'm going out and I meet a lady for the first time or having sex? I might be hesitant to pull that puppy out.
I don't know. It's a problem for some men. Although I have had a couple of men tell me that early on they're
Sorry.
That's okay. Female partners. I think it's unfair if a woman's going to use a vibrator for a guy not to use a ring. People need to be more open about what it's like to be dating. Both parties are tense. The man's tension is obviously more obvious because he's got to get an erection. It's visible, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I think a ring is a real. I know there are non-tech version, the maximum performance ring and the performance ring. That it's a young group that's buying that. They're buying it for performance, and it's great. I've had customers tell me that they loved it on a first date, because ordinarily, especially guys like around 30. Not guys like 20. They're guys. They've already experienced disappointments. I don't like call it dysfunction. They've already had disappointing dates where they lost it, mm-hmm. and then they realize that, well, actually, once I get it up and the ring's on, even if I start getting tense thoughts, I'm not going to be able to please her. One too many drinks. But having something that's going to help them keep blood in changes things for them mentally.
That actually would create a really great conversation too. And Michelle, imagining first date and a guy pulls this out. I think it actually kind of creates maybe a connection or some sort of like trust. He's willing to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, look, I want to use this because I want to please you."
About 2 weeks ago, I heard from a guy. He was 37, 38 years old, who has a lot of first date, second date, anxiety. Mm-hmm. He finally met someone who really liked blah, blah, blah. And he would get aroused with her the first 2 days, he told me. And then he lost it. And the second date, he actually put it on and she took it off him. And that made him, he was too afraid to even explain to her why he's, why he's doing it. And then he got up the nerve to discuss it, to tell her that, look, once we have trust here, I probably won't need this, but it does make things better for me when and gives me more confidence. And the third date, everything was great. And she told him afterwards, that's the best sex I've ever had in like a year, because the guy had a hard on for 40, 45 minutes. And she's not, the other guys she's web dating, it's meeting on the internet, are not keeping it up that long.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, because I don't want to oversimplify, but there tends to be two categories of women. If you're on a first date and someone pulls out a cock ring and explains why, it's like either that's a green flag, a woman who's like, that vulnerability and that like proactiveness I find very attractive, or the woman who's like, ew, gets an ick or whatever. And that's not going to be a successful relationship anyway, if the woman is turned off by that level of assertive.
Look, if I were to put together retrospectively a list of essential qualities for a long-term relationship, one, people need to have shared values overall. Not the same, because you don't want to do something then it's boring, then but not a clone of your values, but relatively shared values. There needs to be some friction in order to develop fresh ideas, etc. Shared values. There needs to be a common project. It could even be family or business, but ideally, a common project. And the third is sex. And I don't think anyone should marry someone who's not into sex toys. Mm-hmm. I wasn't thinking about that, but looking back in retrospect, everyone that I loved, I'm married 37 years now, but everyone that I loved was pretty much, they all had vibrators. They all were interested in optimizing their pleasure. And then that also shows an open mind about play.
Just a lot of repression, though, that we're up against, and deprogramming of that shame attached to masturbation or sexual freedom or using toys. It's unnecessary and it's not rational, but people have it so deep in their core, it's hard to cut that pattern away.
Actually, doctor, I'm really into fitness, especially as I get older. I've been working out a lot. I do a lot of cardio. I do a lot of HIIT training. And I have noticed, I will say, an improvement in the quality, Michelle, I'm just going to say it, quality of my erections. What does that say about my heart health?
Well, you can make it objective. I think it's important. Don't smoke. Don't be obese. You need to be cardiovascular fit. I mean, it's embarrassing after 3 or 4 thrusts if you're breathless.
Yeah.
Obviously, a guy who's as buff as you, Kelly, you just pick up women, put them on you, and you walk up and down the stairs and kind of, I understand that. But most of us are not that fit. But
I wish.
But we need to, a degree of cardiovascular fitness is necessary, but you don't need to. Yeah. You don't need to be having bodybuilder carrying people around kind of stuff. Right. So, but it's important. But what are you taking testosterone?
No, I had my testosterone checked a couple years ago, and actually really good.
Every man who's over the age of 40, 45 should get their testosterone checked on a yearly basis.
And also what I consider to be gross negligence, a lot of physicians aren't asking about comorbidities. So things that can affect all your levels.
Well, they don't even ask about sexual health.
Right.
So here
they don't ask about mental health other than 2 questions when you check in. Are you trying to kill yourself? And if you say no, then they don't ask about it.
Let's not forget the do you have any guns in the house question. When it comes to testosterone, well, one thing, in Epic and Allscripts, the 2 most common electronic health records, there are no questions about sex. So there's no part of it. Obviously, it's a cultural inhibition. Neither the people nor the doctors want to speak about it because they're feeling shy about this. But also, there's no money in it. If the doctors had to ask questions, men or women, and can check a box and make an extra $15, $25, $35 for asking those questions, these problems would be identified and addressed. It's a shame that those prompts are not in the electronic health record. When it comes to TRT, for men and for women, there are 3 questions that they're supposed to ask. How's your sleep? How's your energy? How's your libido? Well, they're also all subjective questions, though. Let's look at those questions. Mm-hmm. Sleep. How many people tell you, hey, I get 8 hours a night, no problem whatsoever, and it's great. Well, so everyone has sleep problems. And that's where if you go online to get testosterone, you're going to get testosterone because who sleeps? Who's going to say, yeah, my sleep's no problem. Then there's energy. Well, who doesn't want more energy? There are guys who say they're low energy and their testosterone is 200. Well, they're probably going to do better on testosterone. But the guys who say I'm low energy and their testosterone is 800. Well, maybe testosterone is not going to make any difference, for you. And then there's the one that really kind of makes me laugh, which is libido. Libido. What people don't even know what it means.
Right.
The average person has no idea what that word means. And then when people think they know what it means, it turns out they don't mean what you think it means.
It means what?
Well, libido means desire, but we don't know. We should be asking patients quantifiable questions. Do you initiate sex? How many times a week do you initiate sex? How many times a week do you masturbate? These are things that are quantified. They can put attach a number to them. With technology, now you can actually say how hard you're getting. And now, because people don't tell the truth to doctors, when the device actually says, someone could tell you, well, I'm only having sex once a week. Well, no, you're actually not. But libido is one of those really fuzzy questions. So I'll just pick on you guys. If I told you right now that I'm mailing you a check $50,000, I'm going to guess that your energy, sleep, and libido are going to be really good for a few days.
Right.
Right. But by the way,
Yes.
I'm a lot less expensive. Send me $10,000. So when I prescribe testosterone to men, I try to ask those objective questions. How many times a week do you initiate sex? How many times a week do you masturbate? What's your goal? So, like I just had a patient this morning. His testosterone is low. Now we have a goal. He only initiates sex once or twice a week. He's in his 40s. His wife initiates sex 3 or 4 times a week. She would like more of an alignment, of that, as opposed to hearing from him, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And so now we have a target. Now he's just bought our device. I don't have his data yet, but I'm confident that we're going to see that he does not have the nocturnal erections that Kelly has. That he's going to be probably in the 2 range. Most men's sexual performance, majority is not improved by testosterone. A large minority is, though. So people are getting the media's giving this kind of twisted message. What they hear is, well, most men don't need it. Okay, that's true, but many do. So so now with this person, we're going to have objective targets. 1, initiation. 2, we're going to get data about how hard he is, how long he lasts when he's having sex, how many nocturnal erections he's having, and we can actually target his dose to that level, as opposed to if the guy went to Roe or Hims, right, or these others, or a regular doctor, it would be, oh, you're in your 40s. We'll try to get you a 700 or 800. Maybe it needs to be 1,000. Maybe it needs to be 400. I don't know. But with data, we can actually say data and the right questions. We can say what's the right dose.
And I would also ask them what stops you from initiating sex, because the psychology of that can play into it and mess with that number.
Yeah, I'll add that one. It's good.
In your opinion, in your humble opinion, how many times should a man be ejaculating a week?
I think an orgasm a day keeps a doctor away.
I'm going to tell my wife that.
Look, I think the sexual frequency is associated with many positive things. Can't say what the right number is. I try to have an orgasm every day, and I think part of it is just that's been my habit since I was young. So I've actually, for me, be like going a day without sex would be like fasting for a day. And men, we're only good as the last 2 or 3 erections. So I think, but there are 3 things that I get asked this question a couple of times a week that I tell people. Look, there's a big study out of the United Kingdom. There's men between the ages of 70 to 80, men in that age frame who had, I forget the number, 2 or 3 orgasms a week versus men who had 2 or 3 orgasms a month, decreased their risk of sudden cardiac death by 50%. That's a big number. Men who have 3 orgasms a week can decrease the cortisol, stress hormone level by up to 50%. Women too. That's profound. And couples, committed relationships, divorced or committed relationship, who have sex 3 times a week versus 3 times a month, have half the separation rate. I've spoken to my governor. I've spoken to 3 commissioners of health about how, here's something you can do that doesn't cost any taxpayer money. Just tell people to fuck more.
I would love to see that campaign, but also to reiterate the importance of masturbation, because you don't put all your emotional eggs in one basket. So if your goal is 1 orgasm a day, you can do it. You can do it with your partner. There's a lot of variety involved in that.
Well, think about the way people here in Bozeman know about my gym. I go to a very fit gym. They know about what I do. They go to the gym and they've got a whiteboard, and they don't do the same thing every day. Or they have a whiteboard on their phone. They have a plan. People rely too much in sex upon spontaneity. You have to plan for pleasure, especially if you've fallen out of the habit. So what do couples do? Well, they rationalize. Oh, we got kids. It's work stress. I'm tired. But the next thing they know is they're having sex twice a month, and they're in the 30s. So it's where's it going to be when you're 40s and 50s? The relationship should be more than just a transaction about having kids and sharing a home. And I tell people to plan for pleasure. I'm a really good cook. If you guys came to visit me and the doorbell rang, it wouldn't be, oh my God, Michelle and Kelly are here. What do we have in the refrigerator? Okay, we got some frozen pizza. I got some rotisserie chicken. I'll heat that up with hot sauce. No, I'd plan a meal for you. And it's not that hard to do that when it comes to lovemaking. I don't think that people should necessarily have a whiteboard with 8 positions in the bedroom. Well, by the way, I think it's a nice idea. Maybe every Friday night we'll do that.
Switch it up. Yeah.
But it shouldn't be, hey, honey, are you in the mood? That's not likely to work. And then people complain to me, as they probably do to you. Well, we went on a date night, but then we drank too much and we didn't have sex. We went on a date night and we then started to complain to each other, drank too much, complain to each other about whatever. So I really think that people, it seems to be easier. I don't know why. I think it's something in people's heads that you alluded to earlier, Michelle. It's easier for people to go to the gym and work out really hard 12, 14 hours a week often than to make love 3 hours a week. I'm so different that it's hard for me to understand that, but I recognize that that's common, and I wish we could change that.
Common.
I can't imagine a couple breaking up who has sex 3 to 4 times a week. I mean, it sounds like a great relationship,
Unless it's makeup
right?
sex.
Right.
Because then
Well, okay. Yeah, true.
also the importance of being attentive to what makes your partner, what does arouse your partner.
Yeah.
Because I might say I'm not in the mood, but my partner knows exactly where to kiss and what to do. And then, 2 seconds later, I'm in the mood. So if you take the time to care what turns your partner on, then when you initiate, you're setting yourself up for success that way.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Dr. Elliot Justin is the CEO and founder of Firmtech. Thank you for joining us, Doctor. It's been fantastic.
I'll be dreaming of that Montana landscape tonight.
I'll write the prescription.
We just spoke with Dr. Elliot Justin, founder of Firmtech, the first sex tech company dedicated to improving men's erectile fitness.
Yeah, so he has invented and created a smart wearable that measures nighttime erections. And what I loved about the conversation is, how you just these are things that are real and true in our lives, but you just never stop to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, of course we're all, this is a thing that happens, but I love the creativity of someone recognizing an opportunity for prevention. So if you wear this cock ring and you get this data and you see any red flags, that could be indicative of some other physical health issues.
Yeah, totally. It's like
just like any wearable.
Well, and it's like the canary in the coal mine for men's health, because if something's going on down there, it's very possible, very likely you have some other issues going on other places in your body, like your heart or your head. Honestly, the times there's been, I'm sure people have ED or men have ED is when I would guess it's up in your head.
I love the reframe of going from ED to erectile fitness. I think that's brilliant because that's how we think about everything else, like the wellness and well-being and fitness, and it really is about that. When you're talking about blood flow in your body, that's no joke. That's something that's really important to understand, and particularly when it comes to sexual health.
And I love the fact that he really is a proponent of sex, having couples having sex every day if possible, and that what that really means is that the couples are being very intimate and being incredibly close and loving. Again, it brings awareness to that and how important that connection is with relationships. I know some couples don't have that, and it's something they probably should work on.
Yeah, and this is a very knowledge is power show, because once you have this data, there's so much you can do with it. And you can make positive changes. It could be the catalyst, like I said, for better communication with your partner. I think it says a lot if a couple has a hard time talking about it. And, I have compassion for that because, like I said, there's a lot of kind of repression and puritanical kind of schemas in our heads around sex. So I don't judge couples who have a hard time talking about sex and sexual health, but I do think it's something that's super important. So either going to couples therapy or finding a way to talk to each other in a more honest, open, and creative way, it can open up such a huge door for intimacy and for sex.
I mean, looking back, the best relationships I've ever had have had really great sexual chemistry.
Yeah. I think it's also an opportunity for self-reflection, and you may hear some judgment in what I'm about to say, and I guess that's okay. But, if you're the partner of someone who pulls out a cock ring and says, I'm trying to get data on my health, and you have a problem with that,
Yeah.
if you do get the ick from someone being proactive in that way, I think you really do have to look at yourself in that regard and say, like, why am I judging that? Or why do I have a problem with that?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I wonder if this person would have a problem with somebody who's popping pills, because those aren't good for you,
Right. And I would also say, one of the number one things I hear in couples therapy when people are talking about their sexual relationship is saying, I'm terrified of bringing up what I want because what if they judge it? Or what if they say, like, ew, I'm not doing that? Then where does that leave us?
Yeah.
So the avoidance of having these conversations is so high, and people are so in their head about it.
I mean, let's face it, if you're in a long relationship, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay. So.
And to not make assumptions, as hard as that is. So if your partner's not initiating sex, there could be 1,000 reasons why. So a lot of times you take it internal. Oh, it must be me. They're not interested in me anymore, or things like that. But it's okay to ask. Sometimes it's like just a logistical thing. They're tired, or, a lot of couples have misaligned arousal periods. So someone might prefer sex at night where someone prefers it in the morning. And so nobody's initiating because I might say, oh, well, I know my partner prefers it at night. So, I'm not going to ask in the morning because they're going to say no. So it's just really important not to make assumptions, to just have the conversations and come up with compromise like you would with any other category of your partnership, is finding something that works for both of you.
I've learned not to instigate sex after eating.
You know what I said to my husband once? It was my birthday and they got me cupcakes. And I actually said to him, I intentionally only ate one so that I could have sex later. Because if I had two, I'd be like, oh, I'm so full. I don't feel like it.
I can't imagine a world now where we eat a huge meal and then run home and have sex. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
No, huge meal. Then you take your fart walk. Then you kind of leisurely have your evening.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, maybe we did it when we were 20, but I don't think you can do that now.
Yeah, and things change too. So you may think you know what your partner likes or doesn't like, but they may have discovered something along the way that interests them, or what's the zeitgeist out there in the world. Different kind of themes emerge with sex, and you might be like, "Oh, well, that sounds cool. I'd try that."
Yeah, it was a great conversation with the doctor. People should check out myfirmtech.com.
And then also, after you're done doing that, maybe do a little 2-minute inventory in your head of where you think your sexual and intimacy relationship with your partner is at this current moment. And if you think that there's a need for some adjustment, then there's definitely resources out there to support that. If you're struggling with family, friends, or just life in general,
in a bad relationship and wondering what to do,
or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success,
then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating.
To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube.